This is from Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same.
Hey, everybody.
This is from Justin to Kane.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Bob.
And this is from Justin to Kane, the only podcast where Mike and Bob watch two movies, one great, one bad, and we talk about how they're the same.
Yes, what anatomy they share, what makes them both cinematic experiences.
Yes.
And what do we do this time?
This time we watched Toy Story 4.
Yes.
And a little-known controversial film called... Indie film. That's very important.
Yes.
Called Loqueesha. These are both films from 2019.
They're both very relevant.
Both relevant, both of the now.
Yeah. Both so topical.
Probably also, this is the first time we've watched two films that are of the same year.
Yeah. And this is the most, I don't want to delve into our process, but the most sort of falling backwards into these films.
Yes.
We just went to Toy Story 4, saw it, and said, should this be the good movie?
Yeah, because it was good.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal...
alert.
It's good. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Definitely for adults.
Yeah.
It's not a child's film.
And then the other movie, I had heard about it because people were mad about it on the internet.
Yeah.
I had a morbid curiosity to see it.
And
so,
how do you feel?
I mean, curiosity satisfied for sure.
Mm-hmm. But how do you feel, Mike?
Oh, I don't feel good after watching it.
Yeah, watching that movie is like drinking a whole Slurpee.
Yeah.
You know? Happy you did it, but you don't feel so good after.
Oh, no. And I did drink a whole Slurpee while I watched it.
Yeah.
So. And then I had cake afterwards.
We had stale cake.
Yeah, stale.
Jeez.
There were a couple of pig boys.
Yeah, we are not in shape.
Hashtag pig boys.
Should we delve into these films?
I mean, we might. What are we waiting for?
Yeah, the fans want to know.
They don't want to know how we're doing it. They don't want to know.
They don't care about us. We got a job to do.
We have a very important, high-paying job to do.
It's like going to the ER and your ER before the doctor checks you. The doctor's like, I'm just going to riff for 30 minutes and you're just going to listen to it, okay?
Oh, yeah.
There's no way to fast forward to me checking that broken bone that's sticking out of your body, okay?
Wait, there's no way to fast forward?
No.
Oh, God.
So that's real life.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, feel free to skip all this. That was my cautionary tale. Anywho.
Hashtag pig boys.
Pig boy lanklords 2019.
Just a couple of pig boy lanklords podcasting.
Oh, jeez.
Couple of bearded pig boy lanklords podcasting. Just as they do in their natural habitat, podcasting. You were saying, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Do you want to share the background of Loqueesha?
No, I want you to do Toy Story 4 first.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Loqueesha needs to be kind of like ramped up
anticipated.
It needs to be ramped up to.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a special cinematic experience.
Yeah, and everybody's got preconceived notions about Toy Story and the franchise and the characters. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Something we're all familiar with. Better start with something familiar before we delve into something just baffling.
Strange. Yeah. Truly fascinating.
I would say fascinating is the word, yes.
Yeah, that's why it took me a moment to get there. Okay, so Toy Story 4 released in 2019, which is the year this podcast was recorded.
It was released like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
And it's already made over $1 billion.
Classic.
But yeah, 1.053 billion as of right now, but I'm sure it's going to go up. It was directed by Josh Cooley. The story was by a bunch of people and then written by two people for the screenplay. So stories by John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, Josh Cooley, Valerie Lapointe, Rashida Jones, Will McCormick, Martin Hines, and Stephanie Folsom. And then Andrew Stanton and Stephanie Folsom wrote the screenplay.
Okay.
It's a great screenplay. A lot of names. This I really like. If you haven't seen the film, this fact won't matter to you. But there's a character called Duke Kaboom, and he also makes a cameo in Incredibles 2 in Jack's crib. He's a very funny character, voiced by Keanu Reeves.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is Canadian, right?
You bet he is.
Yeah, so Canadian voicing a Canadian character. He's a Canadian toy. Very funny. Apparently when Keanu Reeves got so they did like anonymous auditions. So the company received all these audio tapes from the casting agency, and the casting agency didn't have any names. And then they stopped at Keanu Reeves, and they were like, wow, that really sounds like Keanu Reeves. We should get this guy. And then Keanu Reeves rolled up to the studio on his motorbike, had lunch with like the two producers, and by the end of lunch, they had added more scenes and like dialogue. Because he had so many characters about the question. He was like, is Duke Kaboom, what's he mad at? The boy who got rid of him, or is he mad at the expectations that he was saddled with because of the commercial? Like, you really got into the bones and of like the character and the life of the character. And he's a great character. Yeah. Super memorable.
Yeah, all of those details that Keanu Reeves was probably just casually asking about, they were just like, oh, these are actually
good questions.
Let's make this a part of his character.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of interesting. And he does a great job. And I didn't realize till moments ago when I was researching that Keanu Reeves indeed played Duke Kaboom.
Yeah, he's also having a moment, Keanu Reeves.
A great year.
Post John Wick.
The cover of GQ, it's him, and the headline or the subject line is entering his own icon era.
Oh, wow.
Or entering his icon era. Yeah.
Are we having a Keanu-sance?
Yeah, I think so. And Matrix 4 just got greenlit.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. We're having a Keanu-sance, just like when there's a McConaughey-sance a couple of years ago, like post Magic Mike.
Who? Oh, yeah.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the next Sans? What's your guess? Put $50 on it. Who's the next one? You know what? Think about it. We're going to come back to it at the end of the
I'll
episode.
come up with something.
Are you sure?
Vincent D'Onofrio. We'll have a Vincent D'Onofrio. I was just trying to think of a funny name that would work with a sans.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's great. What about Willem
I was going to say Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I think Willem Dafoe is happening. Although his career has always been steady.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. We're talking about Toy Story 4. Neither of those actors are in this film, by the way. So again, if you haven't seen the film, why are you listening to this? And
good question.
I have the ending of this film. Maybe don't listen or fast forward. I'm not really giving anything away, but there's a very emotional scene between Woody and Buzz Lightyear.
Yes.
Played by Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, respectively. And it's very emotional. They part ways in the film. And in real life, they were parting ways. This was the last time they were going to voice these characters, apparently. So when they were in the booth, they both got very emotional and had a very hard time. Because apparently with each film, it ends up being like 4 years of recording. Because they just keep coming back and back.
Oh, right, yeah.
Over and over again. So apparently when they finally did it, because they did that scene last, it was super emotional. And Tom Hanks and Tim Allen cried like a
couple of pansies.
I was going to use a different P word, but yeah, you know what I mean. There is a location in the film called Second Chance Antique Store. It's called Second Chance, right?
I don't remember.
Second Chances? I think it's Second Chances. Anyways, apparently it's very hard to animate because it's just filled with knickknacks, which the animators have to conceive individually. But there's like a whole sort of animated backlot of objects that have been animated, never used in films. So there's a bunch of like Easter eggs and references in the store. So it's the kind of movie you can watch a million times and you can see different details each time.
Oh, cool.
I saw the little girl from Monsters, Inc. is in the film. She has a cameo.
Oh, of course she does.
Yeah.
They all have cameos in each other.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And the cast is very impressive. I'm not going to list it off. The list is too long, but they're all memorable names.
I would recommend a website called imdb.com. It'll give you a good list of...
I've never heard of that website. Interesting.
Oh, you should go.
imdb.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
I only use .orgs, so my resources are pretty limited.
I only use .au.gov. So, did I do that wrong? It might have been .gov.au. No, that's fine.
It doesn't matter because nobody's going to look it up. The film is dedicated to Don Rickles and animator Adam Burke. Don Rickles died before this film was made, so all of his dialogue was used with old dialogue.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Very funny man. Adam Burke, I assume, is dead. They dedicated the film to him.
Why did they not dedicate it to Jim Varney, who also died?
Who's that?
The voice of Slinky Dog.
Whoa, really? He died?
He died before the third one came out. Yeah.
Oh, but they probably dedicated the third one to him.
I guess so. But why not dedicate it to him again? He was great.
You can't dedicate more than once.
You know what I mean, Vern?
You don't see like so imagine, when you see like public benches and they're dedicated to like people who have died.
Yeah.
You don't see like multiple plaques on each bench with the same name, or benches side by side with the same name.
Right.
Thoughts?
That's the riff?
Yeah, it's just an observation, man.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, that's true. You don't see that.
No, I'm smart.
Keep it one name a bench, I say.
Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of all the info I have on Toy Story 4.
All right. Well, here's my breakdown of Loqueesha. So Loqueesha is an independent film written, directed, produced by, and starring, I guess, comedian Jeremy Saville, not Jimmy Savile. If you Google Jimmy Savile, he's a British celebrity who molested some children.
Oh, no.
And I thought his name was Jimmy Savile, and was like, that's weird. He has the same name as that pedophile guy. Turns out his name was Jeremy all along. So
different. Oh, okay.
Much different person, fortunately for him.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find any background on Jeremy Saville on the internet. But I'm to assume he's a stand-up comedian and as a filmmaker as well. Like, he's made several movies. A lot of them are on Amazon Prime because you can just put your movies on Amazon now, apparently. And his website, like the banner says, seriously funny comedy. So you kind of get a good sense of who he is just based on that. Claims to be the most prolific Donald Trump impersonator. If you go on his YouTube channel, there's like a video a day of him doing Donald Trump.
He is prolific.
Yeah, like, no, he's not wrong. He's impersonating Donald Trump probably more than other people, but his Donald Trump is pretty quarter-assed, I would say, not even half-assed. Like,
whoa.
It's just the bare minimum of impression in. So the movie itself, which we haven't really given any context to, the plot of Loqueesha is Jeremy Saville plays a guy who seems like he's doing okay as a bartender.
If I may, the film starts without a problem. He's fine.
There's never really a problem.
No, yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, so the movie starts, he's a bartender. People seem to think he's great. He keeps giving people sage advice. So right off the top of the movie, you're just like, oh, this guy is never wrong, it seems like. And that is a thread throughout the rest of the film. He's never wrong. So a person of color tells him that he's a genius and that he gives great advice. Let's get him on the radio. She tries to get him on the radio. They won't let him on the radio because he's not diverse enough. So he's like, maybe this will work. And he pretends to be a black woman named Loqueesha. And he's inspired by watching two black women argue on a horribly green-screened Maury Povich stand-in.
Called Trash Talks.
Oh, that's what it was called?
I think the show's called Trash Talks.
Yeah.
Or Trash Talkin'.
Lo and behold, it works.
Yeah.
He gets a job easily. Somehow all of the social insurance stuff is like sorted out behind the scenes. The inciting incident is that his son needs to go to private school, and private school is really expensive.
Because he's like very smart.
Oh, yeah.
And the ex-wife of this guy, who is not a good person in this film, the way she's depicted, she just is like, he has to go to, there's no stakes.
No.
He just has to go to a better school because he's so smart.
Yeah. So this guy just gives in. Joe is his name. Mm-hmm. He's just like, okay, I'm going to send my kid to private school, I guess. And so he just gets away with impersonating a black woman named Loqueesha who gives advice on the radio. It's really set up that Loqueesha is going to be a hit, and lo and behold, she becomes a hit.
Yeah.
And barks advice at people into a radio in an extremely racist, stereotypical accent.
Yeah.
And everybody eats it up. Nobody knows that he's white. Then he goes through a weird identity crisis thing where Loqueesha is like taking over his brain, I guess. Yeah. And then that is solved when he does a call-in show with himself. So he calls into his own show and kind of does a Gollum-esque thing where he's Smeagol and Gollum.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, I'm like, this is so much like something else I've seen.
Yeah, they shoot it like Lord of the Rings, kind of.
Yeah.
But then the person who's playing Loqueesha in real life, like a real life black woman, decides that she doesn't want to do it anymore. And so the jig is up for him pretty much. He turns himself in because his kid decides that he doesn't want to go to private school anymore also at the same time.
Yeah.
So he's just like, okay, I don't have to do this ruse anymore. And then for some reason he turns himself in, and the radio people are like, no, let's let the audience vote whether or not you get to be on the radio impersonating a black woman. Mm-hmm. And then the audience votes 50-50. So he gets to host his own show as a white guy, but then occasionally do his black voice.
Yeah.
which is how the movie ends.
What did we learn
And it's
from that
dedicated
film?
to mom and dad at the end.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even like directed by Jeremy Seville. It's just like right after the movie ends with like to mom and dad.
The shot is so quick too, of
Yeah.
like, or the credit is so fast,
Yeah.
and then the credits roll so quickly after. Not how you would conventionally do a dedication.
No.
Toy Story 1 is in much better taste.
But we found our similarity. Both films are dedicated to people. So
Yeah.
So the website for the film says that it deftly navigates the prevalent themes of race and gender in our culture. Loqueesha reminds us that personal truth is all that matters. That and a good laugh. Some other facts about the film. They shot it over 14 production days.
Oh, wow.
Roughly the same as Toy Story 4, I'm to assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy has a lot of movies on Amazon Prime if you want to watch them. His Instagram is a great thing to deep dive into.
Oh, no.
It's just him using Snapchat filters. Like, you know, like just like having an animal face or whatever.
Yeah.
Every single video is him doing some sort of voice with a different filter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
He must be a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
When you Google Loqueesha, one of like the Google questions that come up, like typically asked questions is Loqueesha a real movie? The website The Grapevine / The Root calls it a modern day minstrel comedy.
Huh.
They're like the part of like the Gawker website or the subsection of Gawker that I guess Gawker's not a thing anymore.
No, I don't think it is.
But yeah, it's basically a website that has analysis of like African American culture.
Right.
So they called it a modern day minstrel comedy. They're not wrong.
No, that's an accurate appraisal. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, even though you can't, there's not a lot of very specific information about Jeremy Seville. Just doing any sort of investigation on the movie outside of bad reviews
Yeah.
is a bottomless well of just the weirdest kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to read a little bit off the Wikipedia page. So when he released the trailer in May of this year, there was a lot of backlash because of the racism, sexism, stereotyping, and cultural appropriation. That goes without saying, I would say.
I didn't see any of that in the movie. What are they talking about?
I know. So as a response, Seville tweeted a photograph of himself with Marlon Wayans, referencing how white chicks kind of did the same thing. Wayans said in return that he hated when people tag me in their bullshit. It's as annoying as fuck. So he was subtweeted by Jeremy Seville, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. Promotional material stated it was an official selection of the San Luis Obispo International Film Festival. A press release by the festival said that the film was never selected, screened, or given an award at the festival. It was also submitted to the George Sidney Independent Film Competition, was rejected, and he submitted it also to the Central Coast Filmmakers Showcase. It was accepted, but then pulled by its producers. The festival apologized and said that the film did not receive an adequate vetting process and committed to installing appropriate measures to see that this unfortunate circumstances do not occur in the future. On Rotten Tomatoes has a 0% of approval rating. The Guardian reviewer Joel Golby says it is the worst film ever made, criticizing literally everything about the movie.
I love that.
Yeah. So this podcast isn't necessarily about relishing bad things. There's no podcast like that. But also, there's not much information on this film that isn't about how bad it is.
Yeah.
Unless it's sourced from the filmmakers themselves, which is just about how great it is.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not
What?
great.
I
No,
thought it
it's
was
not great.
phenomenal.
So that's a little background on Loqueesha. You really have to see it to believe it. I would recommend at the very least watching the trailer just to get a sense of what's up, because it's unbelievable kind of that it exists in 2019. It was made in 2019. But also, I guess the way that the political like hemisphere is existing, and I use the word hemisphere to divide it into two sides.
Yeah. Nice work.
That's a metaphor in action.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, the way that the politics is these days, it actually makes sense that someone would be like, no, I'm going to make this movie. It's an important thing for me to make, just to give the SJWs the big old middle finger. So, and also, I do have to say that the film is way more diverse than Toy Story 4.
Oh, yeah.
It has incredible diversity in the film, but a lot of it seems like it's there as a cover, just so that they can get away with it. Also, I think a lot of the people are stand-up comedians anyway.
That's
so
the
I feel
vibe.
yeah, you get a lot of vibe from the
performers.
actors. They look like stand-ups. when they have to do big things,
Yeah.
it really feels like they're doing like a bit from their act almost.
Yeah.
Or like they're doing their thing. Yeah, even Jimmy's, or Jeremy, I keep calling him Jimmy. But he's not the pedophile guy. Even Jeremy's impression of Loqueesha seems like it's like ripped straight out of a hack stand-up comedian's act where he's doing an impression of a black woman.
And so does that first scene when he I forget the woman's name, the character that walks in.
Yeah.
He just like does a very racist accent, trying to articulate that not all men are bad.
Yeah.
But in doing so,
he does an Indian accent and makes fun of Gandhi.
Yeah. It's a fascinating moment in the film.
Yeah.
In the first few minutes.
Yeah. A jokeless, like, first 5 minutes. And then he does this impression that's like super extremely like honed, it seems like.
Yeah.
And racist right out of the gate.
He's done it on stage.
Oh, he's done it on stage. Yeah.
Wow. What a film.
What a film. Yeah.
I'm exhausted by the film.
It was weirdly captivating. Like, I couldn't not watch it.
Yeah.
Like, it was entertaining in a sense.
Yeah.
Because it kept your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I dare say it's like a worse film than The Room in a lot of ways. Not as funny as The Room, but and this film was intended to be a comedy. So take from that what you will.
Yeah.
Not as funny as Toy Story 4 also. A hilarious film.
Yeah. Toy Story 4, very, very funny. Yeah. Should we talk about them?
Let's get into it.
You always seem to say the right thing to just the right person. What's your secret?
I'm really just talking to myself. I don't charge for my advice.
Well, you should, because it was amazing. I saw this and I thought of you. You will be a hit in no time.
Welcome to the Joe Show. I submitted myself to a radio station for my own show.
Well, congratulations.
They rejected me.
Well, congratulations then.
You weren't right for your own show?
Jason skipped it. We need to get the money for this school.
$13,000 a semester? Asking me is their own show. If I was a black woman, I'd be perfect.
Loqueesha. She's brilliant. I know. Get her in here. Loqueesha gonna be
The biggest thing in radio, but I still need my anonymity.
You nervous? Very. It's not a crime. It's theater.
You live with Loqueesha. What's your problem?
Hi, Loqueesha. It's free.
Oh, I ain't talking to you, not the way you sound. Next caller.
You go, girl.
You just be good to her. If you good to yourself, you can be good to others. But don't be too good because the police will come around.
Where did you get this?
I got another job.
Doing what?
Consulting work.
What the hell would you know about being a white guy anyway?
I know quite a bit.
Loqueesha is a real role model for every African-American woman on this planet.
Like the whole city has a Loqueesha mania.
I am Loqueesha, officer.
What was that?
I think I might be a black woman trapped in a white man's body.
You need to talk to Loqueesha. Just because she's a woman and a black person doesn't mean that she doesn't understand you.
Is this really happening?
I'm on a bridge above the river, and I'm gonna jump.
But thanks for calling. Enjoy your jump.
I gotta start listening to her.
I'll do the first one.
Well, we both have some notebooks in front of us. Our cahiers du cinema, if you will.
Nice. Sweet reference.
Thank you.
Is that still printed?
I believe it is, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Would you judge me if I got that ordered to my house?
I mean, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Why?
Okay. I feel like you would.
No, why would I judge you, though? Why do you think it's worth judging? Is it because you feel like you'd be too pretentious?
I would judge somebody if they had a ship to their house.
Really?
Yeah. I got some stuff to work out, you know?
You can. There's a lot of back issues of that, of Cahiers du Cinema at the university library.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Just like a rack. I mean, it was when I was in school.
I'm sure it's still there.
I'm sure it's still there.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
But then it's all old stuff, and it's probably all printed in French. So do what you will.
I'm ever so slightly bilingual.
Yes. Bob Leroux is a French name, but boy, don't speak a word of French. Don't even know what eau de toilette means.
That's not true.
Perfume. Right?
What?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, so not gonna lie, when we were watching this film, We saw Toy Story 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, and then we saw this film an hour ago. It took me a real long time to get into the groove of finding the similarities. I was really struggling for a while. Mike gave me a good little pep talk. It helped.
Okay.
So the first chunk is, the first chunk of my similarities are, I would argue, useless.
That's fine.
So
we can
I'm
edit
gonna
them out.
Work my way down the list, maybe. So the first one, I would say both films have a protagonist that is very bossy to those around them.
Great.
So Woody and Joe are both very bossy characters. Joe's always imparting wisdom and he's telling people what to do. He doesn't really take no for an answer. And he's just kind of like pushy and kind of a know-it-all. And so is Woody. Woody's like super micromanagey. He's kind of annoying at the beginning of Toy Story 4.
Yes.
Like he thinks he knows better than all the toys know, and he refuses to listen to the collective.
They both
monologize.
Yeah, they both monologize endlessly.
Yes.
About
And it's
their own beliefs about how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the first similarity. There's a huge sort of striking resemblance between the two characters.
Yeah.
They dress the same. They're both dressed as cowboys.
Also,
kidding.
Jeremy Seville does look like a bargain bin Tom Hanks.
Yes.
And he dresses like I imagine Tim Allen dresses.
Tim Allen does dress like that. He's like a weird hybrid of the two men.
He's a weird combination of the two men, but also he seems to have very like old school conservative grandpa views. Let me just tell you, you got to work hard for the things you want, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Woody kind of like is a cowboy, like this archaic symbol of colonialism. And Buzz Lightyear is like a space
symbol
cadet,
of the future,
a symbol of like space colonialism. So like they both kind of represent this like old school, toxic,
patriarchal. They're the result and the assembly of what the patriarchy sort of creates.
Yeah, exactly.
Both in how male characters are portrayed and brought up and taught.
Yeah, both like two different versions of like masculinity, like old school 1800s masculinity and 21st century masculinity.
And they're both narrative, like Buzz and Woody are both narrative examples of toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah, and Jeremy Seville is just like right in the middle. He's like a 20th century kind of like 1980s comedian masculinity kind of guy.
If you take if you go right down the middle of the time frame between the future that is Buzz Lightyear and the past that is Woody, you get Joe.
Exactly.
Right smack dab in the middle in 2019.
Yeah, they each
like
represent a different century. Kind of interesting. Like both films inexplicably kind of explore masculinity in their own way.
I like that, Mike.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would say that Jeremy Seville also, one would assume he has the politics of Tim Allen as well.
Yeah.
He has the boyish good looks of Tom Hanks to a degree.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I like your style.
Thank you.
You're starting strong out of the gate,
So
Mr.
are you.
Mike
So are
Robertson.
you. We're both doing good on this.
Amazing considering how slow I was out of the gate to try to find something to talk about.
Well, this is a tough assignment in a way because we just kind of pick movies quasi-randomly. Like this movie can't be anything like Toy Story 4. And it's very similar. But also not similar at all.
Oh, God. This one is a bit of a stretch.
Yes.
Okay. So Woody has a voice box inside of him that has like pre-recorded phrases. And Joe hosts a radio show, also uses a device to record his voice, and people can listen to it at later times. And he also used a phone and made a voice memo and sent that into the radio station. So that's like a pre-recorded voice too.
Yeah.
So they both sort of have this like weird layer, this distance between them, between like the voice they use and who hears it.
Yeah, I'll go one step.
And one might say they both talk out of their ass because the voice box was kind of like literally in Woody's butt.
Yeah, you're right.
And Joe talks out of his ass as a character.
Pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I would take that a step further and even talk about the concept of the voice. Because the voice seems to be the symbol of the film in Toy Story 4 in that like Buzz Lightyear is constantly pressing the buttons on his chest and hearing his inner voice and it's guiding him.
Yeah.
Similarly, Woody's voice is very important to the film in that he has to give it up at some point so that the other doll, Gabby, can just live on as a toy that has worth. Similarly, in Loqueesha, he creates a whole other voice that kind of gives worth to people of the city of Detroit.
Nice.
And it just makes people live again.
Mm-hmm.
But then also that voice kind of haunts Joe in a way.
Yeah.
The inner voice as a like central theme. It
Theme
really
and
links the
device.
two films.
Yeah, that's a huge one, man.
In this case, Joe's inner voice is just telling everybody what to do, though.
Yeah,
so everybody
he's
should
not
listen to his
listening.
inner voice.
Yeah,
he never
yeah.
really listens to his inner voice, and then when he does, his inner voice tells him he was right all along.
Yeah, but then there's that one scene where his inner voice comes out in a very inappropriate time when he's trying to get laid, and it's A, doesn't make any sense in the film, and B, was done in a real weird way.
Yeah, but was supposedly played for laughs, I would assume.
It wasn't funny. Both protagonists get into trouble for a child.
Yes.
So Joe, obviously, he wants to get his kid through this private school, and it's $18,000 a semester. Yada yada yada. The film happens, and with Woody, he's like dedicated to making sure that Bonnie has a good life growing up. And then when she makes Forky, and Forky doesn't want to be a part of it, he does whatever he can to. So they're both like very, in a weird way, self-sacrificing characters, even though they're both quite selfish.
On the Forky note, I want to say that Forky and Loqueesha are both characters that are made up, like literally just made up.
Yes.
But even though they are not real creatures, they still bring joy and worth to the lives of others.
Mm-hmm.
So Forky is in many ways Loqueesha.
Yeah. Just a less racist.
Just a less racist version, yeah.
Yeah.
You could tie every character probably in Toy Story 4 to Loqueesha because Loqueesha is such a rich, varied character with lots of layers and stuff. Even Bo Peep has like a lot of feminist monologues, I'd call them.
Oh, definitely.
Where she's just kind of just like, you gotta give your middle finger to the patriarchy and just do your own thing. Loqueesha similarly does some like weirdly woke monologues where there's one where like a guy calls in and is mad that she's telling white men what to do.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this movie's going to take a very clear, obvious turn. And then it doesn't. And she just tells him all about how, white men have been dominating things for a long time. And now it's black woman's turn. Just let black women have their room. Wow, that was kind of like a weirdly woke monologue that kind of was just saying like, F you to the white man for feeling like they need to dominate everything. Coming from a white man. But
playing a black woman.
Playing a black woman. Like, so, yeah. So Loqueesha does have a very kind of feminist little monologue right in the middle of the film.
Yeah.
Of course, all of this is disregarded as the plot progresses and the white guy remains the hero and all of the black women are pushed down.
Yes.
So, I don't know. But if you kind of ignore everything that happens after that, you're just like, well, this movie has like a real feminist moment.
It's like
a weirdly intersectional feminist moment.
It's like he took gender studies in school and memorized the book, but just as intrinsically misogynistic. So he's like, I have paragraphs memorized. I can say what you want me to say. Do I believe it? No, but I'm going to say it. It's he walks a very weird line in the movie, and you can't pin him down.
No, you really can't.
His social agenda all over the fucking place.
Yeah. Is it super racist? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But is he intending to be super racist? I can't tell.
No, I can't tell. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, he's upset. And then other times you're like, that was a very sensitive, sort of appropriate thing to say. And he really diagnosed the situation well and talked about, whether it was systemic racism or the patriarchy and how sexism affects people.
Yeah.
He just like really kind of nails it with some of the dialogue, but then he's also doing that simultaneously while playing a black woman. And you're like, I don't know, this guy doesn't get it. His approach was all wrong.
Totally.
Both films focus on like work and the job at hand and how that is what is destroying the character, but it is also the answer. So that's the catch-22 that both these protagonists are in. Woody wants to raise Bonnie, make sure her childhood is good. He's caring for her, but he's also miserable and he misses Bo Peep. And he missed on his chance to leave with her. And so he's riding this line of total misery, but also being completely and altruistically dedicated to this thing that is ultimately destroying him. And it's the same with Joe.
He's just clocking in.
Yeah, he is just clocking in. And it's the same with Joe. And with Woody specifically, he's just playing it by the book. He refuses to take any new input. And then for Joe, he's playing Loqueesha on this radio show for his son, but it's also starting to get him into some uncomfortable situations, and he's starting to have to solve problems, and he's digging a deeper hole. And you know, the pressure, the stakes got a little higher, slightly higher than they were.
Slightly higher, yeah.
Never high.
Both films deal with a character talking another character down from suicide.
Yes.
Which is a wild comparison to make.
Between Loqueesha and Toy Story 4.
Yeah, in Toy Story 4, Forky, once he gains sentience, he immediately decides to just plunge himself into a garbage can constantly. Like he's constantly just trying to off himself by being like, I'm trash, and then throwing himself into a thing.
I never read into that, but it's like he is in a way committing suicide. In my brain, because we were watching a children's movie, I was like, oh, he's just taking an eternal slumber in garbage. Well, but ultimately he would perish.
If you like bring it back to the trials of the working man, where Forky is,
as one would,
Forky is just like another person joining the toy workforce, and he's just being like, I can't handle it, man. I'm just gonna like off myself, be like, I'm garbage, and then throws himself into a garbage can.
And on another level, aren't they all garbage?
Yeah, in a sense, they all kind
toys.
of. Well, in Toy Story 3, they kind of like almost got incinerated because they were just like treated like trash.
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly.
So it was like, you did, yeah.
Yeah, so everything is essentially just detritus at a certain point in history. So I don't know if it was a suicide thing, but it kind of, to me, read that way a lot of the time. I don't think kids will pick up on it.
No, I hope not.
And then Woody was just constantly just trying to like solve that problem, trying to talk him down.
Yeah.
Similarly, in the Loqueesha movie, some person calls in, says they're going to commit suicide. Joe, in all of his infinite wisdom, is just like, I can do this because, of course, this weird white guy can do this, who has no therapy experience, no like
understanding of
training,
mental health either.
So, anyway, he talks a person who's literally going to kill themselves by saying you're dumb for wanting to kill yourself. It's just taking the worst, most insensitive way to go about it. And it works, of course, because he wrote and directed the film.
Yeah.
So, of course, his character is going to be right, stopping this person from killing themselves.
Yeah. Both films deal with hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
So the toys, obviously, for whatever reason, the rules of the world are that you can't be seen as a talking toy by the people. So every time an adult or a kid comes in, they become, still toys or whatever, just become garbage, as one might say, trash. And for Joe, he has to hide in plain sight because he is playing an African-American woman, but he is, in fact, a middle-aged white dude.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he's just hiding in plain sight and nobody knows. Everybody is none the wiser. And a whole plot goes on in a world that nobody even knows about. Like the toys, they're doing all this stuff and the adults never know about it. And he's like living his life as a white man, but he has this whole other life as a black woman. And everyone's none the wiser, except for his trusted confidants.
The duality of man.
Yeah, truly. The duality of toy.
Yes. Great. Yeah, both films seem to be about self-actualization, just in that you have to be who you really are. Like constantly in the Loqueesha film, this Joe character is telling people, be who you want to be, go for what you want to do, be yourself. During the credits, the words on the screen just say, be yourself, go for it, and just be like really inspirational. And I think it thought it was being way more inspirational than it ended up actually being.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm watching it as me. I'm sure other people actually were really empowered by this film. I doubt it. I'm just going to doubt that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put my foot down as doubting it. But anyway, both films are just kind of about saying, like, be yourself, look inward, and then give birth to a new version of yourself. And at the end of Toy Story, spoiler alert, that actually does happen. Woody gives up the working life and quote unquote retires.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole other plot. Okay, sorry, I just thought of this. Both films dealing with loving yourself first. And Woody, obviously, I think through all four films, struggles with loving himself. And so does Joe.
Yeah.
And many characters in the film Loqueesha.
Yes. But also you wouldn't know that Joe has arrived at a conclusion that he should love himself because it's never clear that he's changed ever. In fact, by the end, you realize he was right all along.
Yeah, he's never wrong.
Yeah.
It's society that was wrong.
Yeah. It was society that was wrong.
Yeah. When we say that, when you say that, it makes me think that his agenda is a little more clear in that he's like upset by, probably in his words, SJWs.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. You really
Like,
get the sense that he's
that's
just
the
taking
theme.
a pot shot at woke people or people who are sensitive.
Yeah.
A lot of people have Amazon. A lot of people will probably think this is hilarious because it confirms some sort of bias they have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually what a lot of comedy I find kind of does. Yeah, I have this bias already. That's why I think it's funny, because it reaffirms what I believe.
Yeah. Here's one. Both films deal with a romantic relationship being impeded by the role of one of the people. So Woody feels conflicted at the turning point at the beginning of Toy Story 4 when Bo Peep is like, I'm going to leave, like, come with. And he's like, I can't. I need to raise this kid. And so the job takes him away from a life with his what I assume to be his romantic partner.
Well, if you watch the first couple of Toy Stories, Bo Peep is pretty much just a love interest, especially the first one.
Yeah.
Toy Story 1, Bo Peep literally is just like, come on, Woody, I'm just a few blocks away if you ever want to see me. And then she walks by a bunch of like letter blocks, and that's like,
yes.
That's a pun.
It's a good bit. And then Joe, he sort of shares a tender moment with his love interest, and then the voice of Loqueesha comes out.
Yes.
And he seems to not have control over it. It's like his job. It's like a very non-metaphorical way of depicting his job taking over his life.
Wow, yeah,
Loqueesha
wow.
literally takes over his life.
You gave that scene more respect than it deserves.
I know,
Like,
but that's why we're here, man.
I know.
That's why we're here.
But yeah, clearly it was just a weird supernatural element that probably made sense in some other movie like Liar Liar.
It was
just like you can't
thought
control
to be
it.
funny. It was
Yeah.
thought to be funny. That's the issue, and it
Yeah,
wasn't.
it was thought to be funny.
It's quite painful to watch.
But you actually tied it into like the theme of the film.
No, it's all
It's
consuming.
like, it's all consuming. Yeah.
And does he love himself?
That's what's kind of sad about the film, is that he is consumed by work to this extreme degree where it's causing some sort of mania in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the whole point of all this is because he's trying to raise money so his kid can go to private school. It's just America in a nutshell. And also just like a layer of racism under all of it. Oh yeah, this is America, the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loqueesha, as you just stated, is a very good like depiction of many aspects of America and North America in general.
Yeah.
And Toy Story 2 is as well, in that it is like a very blatant example of consumerism, and that you start to humanize inanimate objects that are all consumable.
Yeah.
Like they're all man-made toys that have been advertised. Like every toy for the most part is real.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that they've made this whole franchise based on something that you pay money to get anyways.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a neat thing, you know? Humanizing that which is not human.
Yeah.
And it's like, look at all the empathy you have for these inanimate objects, and then, you know, in life you're like, I want to own that toy. That toy is really cute. I should get a Slinky Dog. I should get a T-Rex.
Did they make a Forky toy?
It would be a cast mold, though. It wouldn't
Yeah.
literally be a spork and some clay. It would be like rubber.
It's funny, though, that something that symbolizes not paying for entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, I can make my own entertainment. I can ascribe value to this piece of plastic and say that it is a toy, and it cost me nothing. They're like, great, now let's package that and sell it to people as like a toy.
They probably made what's so strange about the film, and this is with a lot of like Hollywood films that try to like challenge you know, the American dream, as it were, and that it's like, oh, we have money and we spend it on things to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
Forky subverts that entirely. So it's interesting that the film takes like a pro Forky stance, even though they probably made a toy and sold it, and like Hasbro has a 50% buy-in on it or something.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of interesting that there's like a real hypocrisy there.
It is kind of strange at the very end when Woody joins Bo and they are like, now I'm everybody's toy.
Yeah.
Like he's free from the shackles of being a working toy, I guess.
Yeah. Both films with the subjects that they're tackling never take a firm stance. They like kind of like dance around both sides of the said discussion.
Yeah.
Very convoluted similarity between the two. Yeah, because they neither really, you know, stands the ground and is like, this is what this film believes in.
Yeah.
This is what we're depicting. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, kind of.
It meanders sort of ideologically.
But also, I don't know enough about the Toy Story franchise to know whether or not it was ever meant to be some sort of like dissection of like modern America, or if it was just, there's kind of a connection to like a toy, just like working a job as a toy. That's kind of a funny idea.
Yeah. What's your next similarity?
Tonally, both films are the same.
Go on.
Well, both are intended to be comedy films, but both of them have a strange streak of melancholia that kind of runs through both of them. Both in the like constant monologizing from the conservative main characters about being yourself or like fitting into your roles, depending on whatever is happening in this story. So
no, I totally agree. Yeah, that's a good point. Both films feature a car getting pulled over by police, law enforcement. So the motorhome gets pulled over by the cops, and some freaky shits happen in it because all the toys are wreaking havoc trying to delay it so that all the other characters can get back on time, including Forky. And in Loqueesha, Loqueesha is like possessing Joe, and then he gets pulled over, and the like Loqueesha voice blurts out a few times while being pulled over by the cops. So
by the way, weird coincidence, both films take place in Michigan. Yeah, which is
we think.
So we think. Well, I do remember when they were driving on the road trip in Toy Story 4, there was some signs of cities in Michigan. I believe they drive through Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Pretty wild.
So Michigan.
So a lot of Michigan.
Crazy.
So Detroit is where Loqueesha takes place. Not a hilarious comparison, but still like going back to like the Citizen Kane from Justin to Kelly situation where both movies took place in Florida, which is like a weird coincidence. So
maybe this should be our last one. This one feels like a real whopper. Get this, Mike.
I do want to ask, are you going to talk about how they break down wages constantly, like numbers?
Oh, no, I should.
Well, let's do that after.
Yeah, let's talk about it after.
Anyway, you were going to say.
So the line is said when wisdom is being imparted by Loqueesha. She says something about how you make the same mistake over and 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 over again. And she says over and over too many times.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, that's interesting. Same mistakes. There's like a very cyclical nature to conflict. And I was like, there's 4 Toy Stories.
Yeah.
These toys can't get their shit together.
No.
Come on. There's so many iterations of their lives and so many sort of like episodes, I guess, because shit just keeps happening to these guys over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So that was something I think is sort of it's talked about in Loqueesha, and it's an example in the Toy Story franchise.
Yeah, that's
of how
true.
conflict is so cyclical and happens over and over and over again. And the real question is, do we ever really learn from our mistakes? We do, but in fiction, do we? I don't think so.
Yeah. And well, I mean, in Toy Story, they kind of like each movie ends and then you're just like, well, that's it for the toys.
Yeah.
Even at the end of Toy Story 3, when Andy moves away and the toys are given to another person, you're just like, well, that's it for the toys. We'll never see these guys again. And then they come back
10 years later, 9 years later.
And then they're all kind of experiencing an existential crisis where Woody's just like, I don't want to be a toy anymore. I got to retire. Like this cubicle is killing me.
Yeah.
The cubicle being the closet.
Yes. Even when you figure your shit out, life still moves on and you have to face new problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely a cyclical nature of conflict in Loqueesha in that the main character never really seems to understand that he's undergoing conflict or that he ever did anything wrong.
Yeah.
So
both films, we never see a car logo. In in Toy Story 4, that's because they deliberately don't show any, so they don't have to pay car companies. But in Loqueesha, they just blur it out.
Yeah.
As do they with Jeremy's email. What we assume to be his personal email.
Yes, it was probably his personal email account. They just blurred out all of them except for the top one. Yeah, which was a wild choice.
Oh, super wild.
Also, both films have liberal use of computer-generated backgrounds.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
Like Loqueesha has the room level kind of green screen of regular looking background.
Perspective is all wrong.
Yeah, they're in a coffee shop and you're like, something's slightly off about this. Those cups are as big as his head.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's because the background of a bunch of coffee cups in a coffee shop, they just didn't scale it down to fit the shot.
Yeah.
Toy Story doesn't have that problem. It's very beautiful to look at.
No, but it is all computer generated.
It's all computer
That's
generated.
all
yeah.
animated shit in the back.
Yeah, it's total nothing. None of it's real.
Yeah. When they animated the characters, they probably animated the characters doing the scene first before they put in the background. So like process wise, very similar to Loqueesha. You wanted to talk about how they keep breaking up wages in
Something in Loqueesha that we both were. One of the few times we laughed during the film.
Yeah, not deliberately.
Yeah, one of the few times we laughed during the comedy film that we watched was when, for whatever reason, they just kept breaking down wages on a dollars per hour basis. How much people were getting paid at any given time? Like literally every time, it's just, you're going to pay me $500 a week for this? That's like $33.33 an hour.
That same guy then gives a job to somebody, and whatever the hours work out to, he's like, that's like $13.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And it's just such a bizarre thing. Nobody does that.
But they're obsessed with the
how much division
value
of wage.
Yeah, well, they're just obsessed with the value of their work, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same with Toy Story. They're all obsessed with like the value of their work. Woody especially, he's just constantly just monologizing about toy has to do this, a toy has to do that, man. Mm-hmm. You're not a toy if you don't do all these things. And Woody, like, chill the F out. I'm a toy, man. I got to do the thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, wow, Woody's like boring.
Honestly, yes.
Oh, one similarity between the two films that we didn't talk about yet was the scene in Toy Story 4 when Woody pretends to be a black woman.
Oh yeah, super
on the radio.
Poor taste. Yeah,
it just really stuck out as being like in bad taste.
I can see where he's coming from, being a cowboy, and then the offer for the job explicitly said looking for diverse applicants.
Oh yeah, that diverse cowboy.
He was like, well, I got this in the bag. And then he recorded his voice onto a voice memo on his iPhone, sent it in. They rejected him. I could see why he'd be upset and then try to play a black woman.
Yeah.
To try to get the gig, you know? I can see why.
You got to do what you can in this society.
Yeah. But who did the better voice, Buzz Lightyear or Woody? Because Buzz Lightyear's, sort of racist portrayal is pretty good too. I thought.
Oh yeah. Hey, both the movies feature like a crazy amount of mansplaining because Woody. I mean, we've already discussed Woody and this Joe character are similar in a lot of ways in that they just think they know everything and they're just constantly telling everybody everything on how things work. Mm-hmm. By virtue of the fact that Woody is talking to female toys, he's like mansplaining to them. Like there's a bunch of. I don't remember even the name of the weird like stuffed doll.
Well, yeah, she was calling the shots.
She was calling the shots.
He was just subverting her the whole time.
Yeah, he was like that guy at the business meeting who was waiting for her to stop talking so he could say the same thing in a louder voice.
Yeah,
yeah. Joe does that the entire film to the point of having a black woman say to him, "You're a better black woman than I am."
Yeah, which is
and him not disagreeing.
Well, that stuffed toy also said that to Woody. And said, you're a better stuffed toy than me.
Yeah.
You're a better like felt stuffed toy than I am.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, big time.
Well, I mean, in both movies, the characters are filled with fluff.
Yeah. Oh, that operation scene with Joe is foul. When they cut him open and just cotton pops out of his chest.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, he's filled with fluff also in the sense of he just says a bunch of just nonsense.
Yeah.
Because he's a real piece of crap.
Piece of shit guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, what are your thoughts on there's the one scene where Woody does his Donald Trump impression?
Oh, yeah. And he's a very prolific Donald Trump impersonator.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Because Toy Story 4 ends with a freeze frame of every toy and what they went on to do after this film ends.
Yeah.
And they all make sense. And then Woody's, it just says, became prolific YouTuber impersonating Donald Trump 365 days a year. YOLO 420.
He stopped when the Loqueesha trailer came out. Maybe because of just the
negative reception.
The negative reception, or it may have just been he was like, I did it. I made my masterpiece.
Yeah, I'm dead now. That's my magnum opus. Yeah. Just gonna ride the dusty trails.
At one point in Loqueesha, one of the characters, I can't remember who says this, says, it's better to be alone but being yourself.
No, he says that. That's what he gleans from what his son says. He gleans from the whole narrative about barfing tuna out. So there's two characters face a transformation in the film. The son, he shares this whole story about how he went to this new hip academy school or whatever for gifted kids. And he just wanted to fit in. So he was like, I need to make friends. So I'll just lie and say, I like what they like. And then he was like, I love tuna sandwiches. So this kid eating a tuna sandwich. And then they became friends. And a couple weeks later, this kid brought tuna sandwich for him. And instead of telling him the truth, he ate it. He hates tuna so much that he barfed the tuna sandwich out. And then everyone knew. They were like, what's up? I thought you loved tuna. And he had to, be honest. And then he was like, that was when he realized he needed to be himself and not who other people wanted him to be. And, Woody kind of barfs his voice box out of his back via surgery.
Yes.
From the dolls that cut his back open.
That's true.
Give the voice box to Gabby. And then I would argue then he becomes truly who he's meant to be.
Yeah.
Not what he's pre-programmed to say. And then he becomes a toy for all children.
Exactly.
And he rides the dusty trails.
Both films kind of have the message of antiques can still serve a purpose, in that the antique dolls in Toy Story 4 learn that they actually still have a purpose and they're not just relegated to this dusty antique shop. They can still serve a purpose as a toy.
Yeah.
Similarly, old school conservative BS artist Joe in the film, he wins at the end. So he still has a purpose, even though he's just an antique of a man. Yeah, what did you learn from either of these films? Did you gain any insight into your own personal life?
Yeah, to be true to yourself.
Oh yeah, okay.
What did you learn?
Anybody can make a movie. That's kind of what I gained from Loqueesha. It's just like, well, anybody can make a movie and you can get it on
a streaming
service.
Yeah.
Someone like me can watch it.
Two landlords can make a podcast about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Like the process went from inception to us podcasting about it. Like it got out there. They filmed it over 2 weeks. They probably had a budget of, I assume, to be $12 based on how the film looked. So it was like, anybody can make a movie and get it out there. The future is now.
Yeah.
But I did learn from Toy Story 4 that not everybody can make a CG animated sequel to a hit film from the 90s.
You learned that?
Yeah.
From Toy Story 4?
Well, when I watched it, I was like, I definitely can't make a movie like this.
Oh, yeah.
Just by myself. It cost too
what
much
the budget
money.
Was?
I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars.
$200 million.
Jeez, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that.
MacBook Pros.
I don't have that kind of money right now.
Not yet, but just wait till you make your Loqueesha and it makes $700 at the box office.
Yeah.
You're going to buy yourself a laptop and start animating. I believe in you.
I heard that the original Toy Story movie was originally supposed to be about like a tin toy and not a cowboy.
Oh, really?
Like John Lasseter was like, when he pitched it, it's about a tin toy who goes to kindergarten and meets all these other toys, and it's just a bunch of toys hanging out. And then they were like, this sounds dumb. Pitch it again. And so he changed it, and then now it's what it is. And it's like not that different because Woody is still like a cowboy, even in 95. Why is the cowboy like the main character? Like nobody cares about cowboys.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point, though, when Buzz Lightyear arrives. Woody's like, nobody cares about cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every Toy Story movie is just Woody coming to terms with the fact that nobody cares about cowboys. There's always a new toy introduced, and everybody's like, oh man, this cowboy's boring.
Yeah.
He's just a Tom Hanks-esque man. And that's why I think people like Woody, not because he's a cowboy.
I think so too.
It's not the job he has, it's the person he is.
It's the
inside.
voice. It's
the voice inside.
Yeah.
There you go. Loqueesha and the Toy Story franchise have taught us that. Toy Story has like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Loqueesha has
9.7?
No, 0%.
Oh, God. 0.97%?
No, not even 0.97. It's just like straight up zero. It's like either people didn't review it, and so it's just a solid zero, or people who did watch it were like, not giving this a star.
Yeah, I'm not touching this.
Not giving this a tomato.
That's rough.
Yeah, pretty rough. I got to ask. So both films were made in the year 2019.
Yeah.
The current year, the year of our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
What did both films...
Your Lord.
My Lord.
Yeah. Not mine.
Spelled Lorde, as in,
The musical artist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
the year of our Lord. What do both of these films tell you about 2019, the year of our Lord?
A lot. Yeah. It tells me a lot, Mike.
Like what? Like what have you learned about cinema in our current year? Like we've kind of explored cinema throughout the ages, but we haven't explored our own
contemporary.
Own time.
Yeah.
Because it's normally it's easy to look back on a film and be like, oh yeah, this movie came out like 20 years ago, so it's a classic now. Whereas we can't really say Toy Story 4 is a classic, but it's been,
it's automatically a classic because it's Pixar.
It's as good as the other ones.
Those guys can't fuck up.
No,
right?
They can't.
It pisses me off. They're so good at their job. I hate them all.
Hey, Pixar, stop it, okay?
Fuck you. Stop making good movies. Eat shit once, okay?
Yeah. Oh, they did. They've done it a couple times.
What films?
The Good Dinosaur. No, wait. That's
not Pixar.
That's Pixar.
I may watch that later.
I mean, it's interesting to just check out the PCU in general.
Yeah.
And it is a CU because characters from one movie will appear as like a doll or like an icon in the background of another movie. So
yeah.
It's linked, similar to how there's always the same brand of cigarettes in Quentin Tarantino films.
What brand is that?
Red Apple.
Oh, yeah.
And if you stayed for the credits of One Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio does what I assume is an improvised like
advertisement. No, that was scripted.
Oh, well. I assumed it was improvised.
That means he did his job.
Stop changing the subject. What did you learn about? What did you learn about this year of contemporary cinema from watching these two films?
Let me hit you with what's fascinating. I would say both of these films exemplify the digital age we live in. Think about the feasibility. Say we're doing this podcast, and the year is 1958, or whenever that movie Shadows came out by John Cassavetes.
Right.
Okay. Maybe 56, 58. I can't remember. But imagine we're doing the podcast and we're like, oh, we're doing Shadows and whatever animated film just came out in 1958.
I don't know. I don't know film history. Let's say Snow White.
Which, okay, good.
Definitely from the late 50s. Definitely.
No, 30s.
I know.
Okay. I thought you were, at first I was like, why are we friends, man? You just riffing on Cahiers de Cinema for like 35 minutes?
I know Cahiers de Cinema. I've read Boardwell. I know Sontag.
I think we lost a lot of listeners on this episode. But anyways, just imagine like the feasibility of getting a project like an animated feature and like an indie, like scrappy, super low budget auteur film done. It's just interesting that you and I are able to talk about these two movies. Because they wouldn't have been possible 65 years ago.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so it's fascinating.
I can make Loqueesha.
And they're good examples, I think, of like money well spent and money poorly spent.
Yes.
But film is democratized and sort of not universally accessible, but more accessible than it's ever been, and it's only becoming more accessible because distribution is easy. Creating it is easy. Procuring equipment is easier. Like everything's getting cheaper.
Yes.
And it's just interesting that people can have an agenda or have ideas that are either dangerous or kind of freaky and stupid. And they're like,
I would say stupid is the word. Yeah.
And they can be like, I made a fucking movie and it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Whereas John Cassavetes, I mean, he's not a bad filmmaker. He's the only example that comes to mind of like an indie guy who'd like finance out of pocket. He's shooting that shit on film, getting it developed, editing it on his Steenbeck. Like nothing about that is easy.
No.
Whereas this Donald Trump impersonator was like, I'm going to make a feature film. And he did.
He's not only made one feature film, he's made many. 3 probably.
He's like a prolific filmmaker with his shorts and with his features. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's just interesting that we live in a time that a film can be made for $200 million and gross 1.5 or 1.05 billion in like 3 weeks. That's something that never happened back in the day.
That's true.
And it's a good film, don't get me wrong. But then there's also this awful film that can be made and everybody can know about it because they just go on the internet and fucking read about it. And they're like, wow, this Jeremy guy's a real piece of shit.
Also, this whole story would be more interesting, I think, if the tables were turned and a movie like Loqueesha's size was made for the same money it was made, same kind of like work ethic, 2 weeks, just like a bunch of people putting together a ragtag team to make this little like piece of art that they love.
Yeah,
their heart is just completely into. Versus like the behemoth of modern media, Disney, like creating this franchise, this cynical sequel to its like own thing, and the indie movie just like dwarfing the big cynical like
in success.
Whatever. Yeah, in Success. That
And
would have been a
that's-
more interesting story. But
And
also,
that's
but
happened though.
Oh, of
If
course
we had
that's
picked
happened.
literal like any other film.
Well, yeah, if we would have picked
Combo.
Paranormal Activity. Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Truly.
I think that's the thesis of this episode is what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Just like, liberal Hollywood's making their movies, shooting their diverse, woke messages of feminism, blah, 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 down our throats. Luckily, Jeremy Seville is here to save the day by just telling us to
Our savior.
just shoot down our throats to the same kind of message of I can say and do what I want. I'm a white guy. Live with it. I speak the truth. Blah, blah, blah. This isn't racism.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It might not be racist, but at least it was homophobic and transphobic. So you can't take that away from him.
What a review.
Oh, I know. At least the white guy won. I mean, once again, going back to the colonial thing, it's like at least the white guy at least the patriarchy succeeded and was not smashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good. Thanks for listening, everybody. Again,
thanks for listening.
Don't
If you're
forget to go to our online
Our
store.
social medias.
We have an online store.
We have
It's
an
open.
online store. You got to find it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you where it is. It's secret.
It is bumping. We have not made a single sale. There's a lot of merch.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's like going to your favorite concert and you're like, oh my God. And then you want to go to the t-shirt shack.
Yes.
But then it's like you walk towards the t-shirt shack.
Famously called the T-shirt Shack at concerts. the merch tent called the T-shirt Shack.
Anyways, it's like you're at a concert and you're like, man, I fucking love Dave Matthews or whoever you're going to see. And
Very telling.
I don't like Dave Matthews. I'm not into him. It's just a name that I thought of.
Wow, you're really defensive.
Yeah. Anyways, you walk towards the t-shirt shack and then you walk in the t-shirt shack and then the employees are like, we haven't sold anything because nobody likes Dave Matthews at this festival.
Right.
And you're like, oh man, I could have anything I want from this store. And they're like, yeah, anything. Obviously you have to pay full price because everybody's got to eat. But go to our store. It's like Dave Matthews.
Also, here's a little bit of music trivia for you.
Oh.
What band famously dumped a lot of human waste over like an overpass? From their tour
Iron
bus.
Maiden?
No.
Dave Matthews.
It was Dave Matthews
I
Band, that's
know.
right.
Yeah. I forgot about that news story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it have to do with Toy Story 4 and Loqueesha?
Lots. We'll let you decide.
We'll let you decide.
Make your own
Well, in
podcast about our podcast.
Okay, here's some similarities. We should do a side podcast where it's like, what does this have to do with the Dave Matthews Band? So in Toy Story 4, they drive an RV, similar to a tour
touring
bus. Yeah, they're touring across Michigan.
And you know how in scenes, there's rarely scenes of characters going to the bathroom?
Yes.
That's just assumed like a thing that doesn't need to happen within the story. What
Yes.
they also don't show is you using like a pump to get the shit out of a motorhome when you're road tripping.
Yeah.
Think about every road trip movie. You never see the dad like beside with a big blue hose attached trying to like dump it out or getting the like Blue Boy storage thing out and getting it on wheels and taking it on a quad up a hill so you can dump it into a larger tank
Yeah.
a couple kilometers away from your campsite.
Yeah.
You don't see that in Pixar movies.
You don't. And it's
You see it in
it's
Dinosaur,
a
though.
damn dirty shame.
Well, this has been from Justin to Kane.
That's bit.
I always want to call it from Justin to Kelly.
I do too.
This has been from Justin to Kane. I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.